Hi folks, coming at you again with another Netflix or Not-Flix. That's where I watch film that's been recommended by Netflix and I let you know what I think. So if I say a Netflix, it means thumbs up, give it a go. Not-Flix, that's no good, don't watch it. Today I'm going to be talking about The Silence, which has just dropped on Netflix. I think it's the newest kind of Netflix produced film that they've released, so they're pushing it pretty hard. I was curious about it. I thought I'd give this a go. And the basic story is a family struggles to survive in a world that's suddenly overrun by monsters that hunt you by sound. And if that sounds very familiar to you, you're probably thinking of 2017's A Quiet Place, which is basically the exact same plot. Um, I feel like I have to kind of mention A Quiet Place because these films are so kind of similar to each other. I may be doing a disservice to The Silence by kind of comparing it to A Quiet Place, but it's almost impossible not to, given the similarities. Right down to both families that had like a deaf daughter, which meant it was easier for them to kind of communicate with each other because they all knew sign language. Um, yeah, it's I don't know what to say about this film. I guess if I hadn't seen A Quiet Place, because I really enjoyed A Quiet Place. It's one of my favourite films of 2017. It kind of kept me on the edge of my seat. It built the tension really well. You were kind of worried about what was going to happen to the characters. It kept you interested all the way through, and you really were quite tense. This film doesn't really have that going for it, really. Didn't feel connected to any of the characters. Thought they were quite bland. But like I say, if I hadn't seen A Quiet Place, maybe I would have enjoyed this film a bit more, but I don't think I would. I think purely taken on its merits, it's not the best, really. And I've seen online that apparently this film is based on a book that was published in 2015, so if anything's ripping off anything, it would technically be A Quiet Place is ripping off the book that this film's based on. But my argument there is, even if a film is ripping off a book that you then make a film out of, if the film that's ripping it off does a better job than the film you actually make based on the book, then what's that say about your film? I don't care if it's a rip off. A Quiet Place did it so much better in every respect, really. Yeah, this film's it feels to me almost like one of those mockbuster movies that they make when, it's like a big blockbuster movie and then there's like this company that makes straight to DVD, like really crappy, versions of the big blockbuster movies. And that's what this feels like. This feels like a cheap knockoff of A Quiet Place, which is bad. I mean, but even like I say, taken on its own merits, it's not good. It's boring. The pacing's all over the place. I had a real issue with that. It was kind of like as soon as everything kicks off, there's no sense of time scale, so you don't really know how long the film's kind of portraying within the world it's in. So it looks like I got the impression that it was only several days after everything kicked off and humanity had just kind of crumbled, and I thought, well, that's not very realistic, I don't think, considering the threat and ways around what they represented. Like, I don't see humanity kind of crumbling that quickly or at all, really, because the monsters in this film, they're not unbeatable. They're not like the ones in The Quiet Place. I could believe that those guys had taken over and like killed everyone because they were like really scary. This is just slightly big bats that have sharp teeth. They're really weak as a monster because they literally hunt by sound. That's all they rely on. There's no echolocation. There's no. It makes you wonder how they can actually find their way around because they're just relying on sound. And even that's inconsistent within the movie. It's kind of like 1 second they can't make any noise whatsoever. The next they're quite relaxed. They're just talking to each other. I mean quietly, but they're still making noise. One of the characters at one point's in a bath, and I'm thinking, how did she run that bath without making any noise? It just doesn't make any sense. And they show these things are attracted to even the slightest noise, but then on other occasions you can get away with kind of making a little bit of noise. So it was very inconsistent. It didn't make any sense a lot of the way through. Then the ending, it's kind of like they tacked on this kind of bad guy who is the leader of this crazy cult that all cut their tongues out. And again, given the time frame that it implies, it just doesn't make sense that a cult would just spring up, like a crazy doomsday cult, which would just like appear within like a week or two of this kind of situation. It just, yeah, maybe it's supposed to kind of be set over a longer period of time, but like I say, they don't make it very clear. It just seems like it's been a few days that these people have been kind of sitting in this cabin, and when they go out, it's like, it's like The Walking Dead. There's just like cars crashed up and bodies everywhere, and it's just, yeah, it didn't give me a good sense of time scale, and that really annoyed me. And like I say, the bad guys were kind of just tacked on to, add a bit of drama, I think, to the overall film, because there wasn't much else going on, really. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I didn't enjoy it. And I like to think I'm being impartial there. I wouldn't have enjoyed it even without having seen The Quiet Place. So yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to have to give this one a Not-Flix. Take my advice, if you haven't seen A Quiet Place, watch that instead. Far better. Everything in that film. I mean, even in A Quiet Place, the characters do things that don't make a lot of sense sometimes, but I didn't care. It kind of like, it didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie. Whereas in this film, when the characters make stupid decisions, it did bug me. It's like 1 minute they're kind of having to talk through sign language because they want to make any noise, and then the next minute they just forget all that and they just start chatting away. It just irritated me. So I'm going to leave it there. Like I say, it's a Not-Flix from me. You should do better, Netflix. Yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.